Well, I have my son removing the caulking with a knife because our goal here is to get that base trim out of here. May as well do that. Even though this is a video about the lighting project, this is kind of like a little side project just to get this ready for everything that's going to happen in that room, including a door. All right, well, we got that base trim removed in anticipation of the what I'll just call the toilet room project to start out with. Interesting, we did have a water leak down there, and I don't see it on the wall as much as I'm going to see it on the floor, I'm pretty sure. That's because we had this kind of cheap bidet hooked up, and it developed a leak, and I didn't know it was doing that. That's especially problematic if you have a basement like we do. Anyway, there's one thing I want you, I don't know if anybody has noticed while I pan along here, I'm looking at the tile and the wall, and if you are sharp-eyed, you'll notice that the size of the spacer tile there is about an inch, and then it diverges away from the wall, and by the time we get down to the toilet here, it's quite a bit larger. So in other words, this wall is not plumb. And so I'm going to have to find a way of correcting that. Fortunately, when I put this wall in for the door, there's going to be a corner right there, and that will mitigate looking at this long stretch of obvious unevenness, not square. So notice if I'm only going from there to there, that's not as bad as going across this entire distance, and you can obviously see there's something askew. So this part of the problem will be solved by putting the door and the wall in. All right, so I'm in the toilet alcove, and I've got a fan. They're a very standard fan. And the light for this area, again, as I mentioned earlier, is sitting right where I need to put the door. So that needs to move. Okay, now that light and that exhaust fan are both connected, as you would expect, two switches, one for each need, okay? What I want to do to save time and energy and having to tear things up is use the same wire that turns the light on and off here and extend it, because I want to put a light in that area right there. Two lines mark where the joist runs. And so I can't put a can light there and have it look symmetrical. I mean, I could put it way over here, but it just wouldn't look right. I want these two items to look like they're supposed to be this way, okay? So I'll start working on this in a minute, but I'll probably do a shallow metal surface box that screws directly into that joist and also into the plaster. I'll need a hanger for that. And then I should be able to fit the light that I bought on there. All right, well, here's the light fixture that we selected. It's one of those LEDs that doesn't need replacing. Of course, eventually, I guess it'll burn out, but not anything I'm gonna have to worry about. And the idea here is to get this mounted right about there. So that little black mark right there is the center of this space. And I thought to make it look the best is to make the edge of the exhaust and the middle of this area the same distance as the edge from the light to that. And then when you look back, it'll look like it's meant to be there. And then I would just, of course, center it on the actual exhaust fan going this way. So I'm going to use one of these shallow mounts and put that right there. And part of that will be into the actual joist. Part of it, I'll just use a drywall hanger to get that secure up there. Now, that light's supposed to be flush mount. This will make it so that it's slightly off the ceiling. The reason I don't mind that is because this room will have a door on it and an upper wall, you'll never be able to see if there's a gap between the ceiling and that light, because you won't be able to stand far enough back to notice. And so I'm not too worried about that. The other alternative would be to, again, put this in I could put a ceiling box in there, but again, this joist really makes it unappealing in terms of what I want it to look like. So the aesthetic quality is going to win over everything else. And I'm just going to try, I don't mind if the light's not flush with the ceiling, in other words, to get it centered the way I want it. All right, well, here's this shallow mount electrical box, okay? It's already got several holes in it that I'm going to use to secure it to the ceiling. The way this is going to go is these two will probably go, or at least maybe one, will go into the joist, and this I'll just use a drywall anchor to secure the other one. And then there are some punch outs you need to do, so I have to decide if I'm putting this up like this, then the joist is going to be here, so the electrical connection is going to have to be made over here so it can get out. And then these you just punch out, so I would just decide to remove one of these by putting a screwdriver. I'm not going to do it right now because I'm not exactly sure which one I'm going to pull out. And then I'll probably want to pop this center one out, okay? Just so I can get a center on this actual fixture so I can mount it on the ceiling in the exact place I want it. Okay, so I kind of made my measurements there, and I already used this and marked the holes in the drywall, or on the drywall ceiling where I need to go. The 2 dots on the top are where the joist is. The 2 dots on the bottom is where it's just pure drywall. So I'll put 1 mounting screw probably in the upper right or left corner as you're looking at this, right into the wood. And then the other one, I'll just pick a place and put the drywall mounting in there, and that'll secure this box in place. Now, another thing I did to minimize the idea that this will not be exactly flush with the ceiling, I made a circle around the shallow mount electrical box, and I'm just gonna remove this ceiling treatment. That'll make it as level as possible and will ensure that the fixture will get as close to the ceiling as possible. All right, so that's how the shallow mount looks now. I put the fixture up there, make sure the distance is proper between the edge of that and the edge of the exhaust fan. So I cut out everything that needed to be cut out, including a hole now into the attic. Okay, I'm taking the old fixture off. I didn't run into any surprises here. There should be just a switchback loop coming from that switch. And then I had 2 light bulbs on here, so we have 2 white leads leading into that. So we're looking pretty good here. I'm not seeing anything up here in the ceiling that is changing my plan. We're all good. Okay, it's all off. So now we're going to take this wire and shove it back up into the attic. Of course, the next step is to get into the attic and pull on it, but you get the idea. So again, where that fixture is, there's going to be a door entry. So that'll be a stud attached to the actual ceiling. So that hole will mostly be covered up by the actual 2x4. I may need to do a little minor patchwork on this side, plaster patchwork, but with trim, I just don't think that's really going to be seen very well. Scrap pieces of Romex here. So this happens to be 12 gauge wire, but it'll be fine. It's lighting, it can be 14, but this length just happens to work out pretty well that I can go from a junction box up there. Again, I'm not going to use the one on the ceiling because you won't be able to get at it to make, if you ever had to make a repair to a connection. So I'll go from just a kind of a holding electrical box up there that'll just have a cover over it, over to here, and then I'll run that down through there to power this new light. All right, heading up here to the attic space. And I've already been up here, and I went ahead and installed the light and gave myself some places to step here. Because I'm wanting to get over there where those wires are sticking up, see, beyond the pipe. It's already getting pretty warm up here, so I'm not sure I'll finish this tonight, but we'll see, but that's where I'm headed. Okay, I'm up here where I need to be. This is my electrical box where I keep all my cool tools for doing electrical work. I got my piece of Romex, I've got my boxes from Menards. I'm over here now, so we're going to pull the old fixture wire out right here. Okay, and we're going to see how far that gets us, but I don't think it's going to reach where it needs to, which is where I stuck that, like I said, I was going to put that green coated 12 gauge electrical wire so I can mark the hole where I need to be. That's where this needs to go eventually. So I need a temporary box at the end of wherever this reaches, which is probably going to be right there. I'll put a box there and then run the remaining wire over and down into that hole to make the connection. All right, it's warm up here. So what I did is I moved this wire. I put the box right there. That's the old connection there. Put it right there, nailed it to the joist. I will eventually put a staple right there to hold that in place. I just don't have them up here in the attic with me. I'll make a connection there, really simple, 1 wire to each wire. And then that goes down to where the new fixture is going to be, and I will staple the end of that as well as soon as I get them up here. All right, I'm stapled there and there. I got my black to black, white to white, ground to ground set up, and now all I'm going to do is tuck those in and then go ahead and put that lid on it and seal that up, and then we'll be able to go back down where it's cool and finish this connection. Okay, next phase. That shallow box comes with a wire clamp right there, which has a single screw that can actually hold both sides if you had 2 wires coming in. I screwed that in. Now, the way I'm choosing to use this, that screw actually goes into the drywall, but it doesn't make any difference. It makes a very tight fit so that wire's not going anywhere. And then there's this little collar that the light fixture is going to snap onto. I screwed that in, and there's my exposed wires, which I'm about to trim and cut up and put the wire nuts on, and we'll be almost ready with this project. All right, so I made the connection, tucked those up in there as I thought. The shallow box will hold those wire nuts and they're not protruding, and there's enough space at the top of this fixture for these stranded wires to bend around. And then it looks like those clips right there, you just push up and in to that mechanism. I may need to move those wires caps a little bit, but I can also twist this unit, so it's all going to be fine. And we should be about done. All right, and there's the finished product. Okay, it's all installed. This is very bright for this size room, but it can be dimmed. And as you'll notice, I think you can see again, it's not flush with the ceiling. I knew that would be the case. Because of the way this is mounted, this does wobble a little bit. But again, you would never ever touch this. You would just leave it exactly how it is. So project successful. Okay, well, the project is finished. The light is up there. And the only thing I have to do on that is install a dimmer switch, but I can do that later. So the next project, now you can see there's a curtain hanging up behind me. That's the current door to this room. So that'll be the next phase, is to go ahead and buy a 30-inch door and install it. And that'll be the subject of the next video. See you then.